Number 15. I have a bad feeling about this. In the beginning of the film, Obi-Wan expresses to Qui-Gon his unease. He explains that it is not about the mission but is, elsewhere, elusive. That is the Phantom Menace, Jar Jar Binks. Number 14. There's something else behind all of this. The Queen expresses her desire to remain with her people, but Qui-Gon advises against it, and as he says the line, Jar Jar Binks is literally standing behind them. Number 13. There's always a bigger fish. Qui-Gon gives us the lesson that the Phantom Menace teaches us. That behind every villain there is another bigger one. Behind Newt Gunray is Palpatine. Behind Darth Maul is Palpatine. And behind Palpatine is Jar Jar Binks. Number 12. Jar Jar's inexplicable knowledge of foreign languages, food, and currencies. When Qui-Gon and the gang arrive on Tatooine, Jar Jar is shown, seeing some kind of local Tatooine carcass and attempts to eat it. The local boomer merchant tell him that it will cost him 7 whoopie.
Boomer!
Jar Jar is surprised at the cost, despite supposedly being a clumsy backwater alien from Naboo. He should not only not know what the merchant is saying, but also should not know the value of 7 whoopie. Number 11. Jar Jar's peculiar understanding of technology. After landing on Tatooine and meeting Anakin, Jar Jar Binks is seen working on the right side of Anakin's pod racer, the same side of the pod racer that Anakin later draws power from to fix his pod during the race. Number 10. Force jump. Jar Jar Binks executes a 360-degree no-scope backflip, spinning splash, a feat not demonstrated by any Gungans throughout the movie. Jar Jar Binks shows an unnatural and bizarre level of acrobatic ability compared to other Gungans, which is ultra sussy and clearly shows his use of the Force. Number 9. Jar Jar uses Force Manipulate on Qui-Gon. After traveling to the underwater city, Boss Nass refuses to help the Jedi and tells them to leave. Qui-Gon then uses some Force Manipulation on him to get him to let them have a transport. As Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan begin to leave, Jar Jar then uses the same Force Manipulation on Qui-Gon. There was no good reason to help out Jar Jar in this instance, and even later Jar Jar asks, "Where is Wesa going?" And Qui-Gon replies, "Don't worry, the Force will guide us." Qui-Gon didn't need a navigator and made it quite clear earlier in the movie that he was not interested in Jar Jar fulfilling a life debt to him, so why not just drop him off in the swamp the first chance you get? It's clearly because Qui-Gon is being manipulated in this instance. Number 8. Jar Jar's reflexes. Shortly after Qui-Gon Jinn meets Jar Jar on Naboo, they meet up with Obi-Wan being chased by droids. Jar Jar Binks reacts to danger before the Jedi Master does. Number 7. Jar Jar manipulates the Queen. Jar Jar Binks speaks to Queen Amidala about the Gungan army on Naboo and convinces her to go back with a wave of his hand. Number 6. Jar Jar stops Sebulba. After the encounter with the merchant, Jar Jar spits out the carcass onto Sebulba, who rushes to attack him. When Anakin shows up, it seems as though Sebulba stops attacking Jar Jar because of what Anakin says, but if you look closely, you can see Jar Jar waving his hand before Sebulba's face, turning off his aggression like a switch. Number 5. Your mother's right. During the dinner scene on Naboo, Anakin tells Qui-Gon he can pod race to get them the money they need to repair their ship. When his mother expresses her objections, Qui-Gon says, "Your mother's right." And at that very moment, Jar Jar is seen mouthing his words. The likely answer for this is that Jar Jar knew Anakin's importance and didn't want to put him in harm's way. However, his Force manipulation powers have their limits, and had he exerted his Force abilities too much in this instance, he would have been discovered. Number 4. Droid Head. Near the end of the film, Anakin destroys the droid command center and all of the droids shut down. The droid in front of Jar Jar has its head fall off, while all around the rest of the droids remain intact. Number 3. Jar Jar manipulates Qui-Gon and Watto. This entire scene is very unusual when you focus on Jar Jar's movements and facial expressions in the background.
I'll wager my new racing pod against, say, the boy and his mother.
I'll wager my new racing pod against, say, the boy and his mother. The boy and his mother. The boy and his mother.
It's as though he is controlling this entire scene, from Keegan's dialogue to Watto's movements as he is holding the chance cube.
Blue, it's the boy. Red.
Blue, it's the boy. Red.
Number 2, Jar Jar controls Panaka and Keegan. Upon arrival on Tatooine, Keegan and Jar Jar start to head out towards Mos Espa when Captain Panaka tells them to wait. Padme is curious about Qui-Gon's plan and wants to come along. Qui-Gon refuses, but then Jar Jar Binks uses his mind-controlling abilities to have Captain Panaka say,
The Queen wishes it. She's curious about the planet.
Queen wishes it. She's curious about the planet. Queen wishes it.
After Keegan accepts, Captain Panaka seems to have this general unease about him, almost like he felt like something happened to him, but can't quite put his finger on it. Number 1.